take a brief moment to introduce a new function that I've just released on the Part 9 bracing calculator. And so I thought easiest just to do a quick video here. So as I mentioned, there's been a recent release of the Part 9 bracing calculator on January 26, 2026. You can access this or check for updates through the check for updates button here on your version. If you need to access it, if you need to download it again, you head to the Part 9 bracing.ca under the calculator, the beta download, and come to this button here. When you're in the calculator, you won't notice any sort of real visual difference until you get to the I2 bands. So I'm introducing a new optimization function in the calculator feedback here. The basic intention is to give users a little bit of feedback how to optimize their design, hoping to minimize their amount of bracing that they need, or just providing a little bit of additional detail so that designers can use that to make well-informed decisions. We'll start off just by entering some basic information to produce some actual results in the calculator here. So I've just introduced a hypothetical building, Part 9 building, that is only one brace story. So it's just a slab on grade with no floors. It's located in Victoria. And the building dimensions are 45'6" along the horizontal and 30'3" along the vertical axis, with a eave to ridge height of 9'3". It is normal weight construction. Now, with that information, when we head to the second sheet, I2 bands, and we start to populate these cells here for the number of bands and the total distance between the centerlines of the end bands, we'll start to see some results that come back in the slide here. So let's consider this one as, let's say, 4 bands and 45 foot between the bands. And let's say 3 bands and 30 feet between the bands. And so you can see on the sidebar here, some information is starting to come back. Now there is a hover note that explains this in some greater detail if you are looking to just read through what it actually means. And you can just hover over this cell for that, for visualization of that. But basically, the thought here is that through the k-factors that are number of bands and average band spacing, there's a mathematical relationship that just isolating those two functions, we can determine what the optimal number of bands is for a given total distance between the center lines of n bands. And so we can determine that calculation based on a per band value. So what is the minimum required bracing per band? Or we can determine it based on the per orthogonal direction, so the sum of all bands in a particular orthogonal direction on a particular brace story. And so these are the two values that are coming back here, or the two lines that are coming back here for each of these orthogonal directions. Now, if we just take this top one for example, per band, when we're considering wind forces, this calculator is telling us that we are not optimized for wind, and that the result that we're actually using, or the input that we're using, is resulting in a 13% greater than optimal result. And similarly for seismic, when our design driver is seismic, we have, based on our inputs over here, seismic is resulting in a 6% increase in, or 6% above optimal amount of bracing required when we're considering seismic as the design driver. So I'll just play around with it. Basically, we would assume that the total distance between centerlines of n bands would be pretty constant. However, in our design, we might want to utilize a different number of bands for different types of reasons. So I'm just going to adjust this, for example, to 5. And now we can see that the results have shifted a little bit. So per band for wind and seismic, we're at the optimal number of bands. But for the orthogonal direction, so the total overall required amount of bracing, we are 8% higher for seismic. Now, the same thing could happen on this direction if I were to change it, and so you start to see these numbers shifting. So this is just providing feedback to the designer, and you do have to consider these values very much in association with this design and feedback tab as well. So we're going to jump over there. So I've pre-populated this design with some values. Now, based on the all the inputs that I've put in so far, from I1 general, I2 bands, and design and feedback, you can see with our sort of hypothetical house here, the design driver is very much all seismic. Now that can change for different reasons. based on primarily your location. Well, in some ways by your location, but also very much in terms of your design. So it's good to take a look at these and then come back and have a look at your optimization values, and get a little bit of insight into how yours might be working. So say for example, this design that we're using obviously is heavily driven by the seismic values or the seismic design driver. Coming back here, if I wanted to optimize this orthogonal direction, and I was most concerned about this number up here, so the total overall bracing that I'd be installing in that orthogonal direction across all the bands on that braced story, then I might want to consider adjusting this, because currently I'm already I'm basically installing 17% more bracing, total bracing, than I'm required to. So, or that would be optimal. So if I change that to 3, for example, we can see that I now have an optimal amount of seismic bracing, and if I'm considering per band, well, I'm only 1% higher than what the optimal rating, which was 4, I believe. Yeah, exactly 4. So just a few things to consider there. I might be better off changing this to 3, and then of course that's going to influence the number of bands that I'm using here. So just play around with it, see what you think. Happy to take any feedback. Thank you.